All right. Recording in progress, now it talks. Welcome back, everybody. This is Mike DiMuccio with Aligning with Success. It is June 7th, a scorcher in Toronto. My goodness. I guess you guys don't know Celsius Fahrenheit conversion, but it was 35 or something like that. Felt like 38, and I got my first round of golf in today. Yes. And not only that, but I actually did pretty good for my first round of golf. In fact, I did almost one of my best. I shot an 84. So anybody who knows golf, that's only 12 over par. That's like pretty good for a guy who doesn't play golf. Anyways, welcome back. We had a terrific call last week. I hope you've had a chance to revisit it. I know I'm having a great time, fun time working with the girls as they get ready for they're in pre-launch, so they're getting ready for all out massive action. Now, once upon a time I said most people are afraid to sponsor because they don't know what they would do with them if they actually had a good one. And that's never been my problem. I've always leveraged a system. And I've taught it since the beginning, and I've taught them what I've taught you. So they're being familiarized with the career plan and launch strategy, the zigzag, the reverse zigzag, the 3 conversations, the lock-in event, etc., and then transposing that onto an actual calendar. So we have what we call drop dead dates, and I wanted to touch on a little bit of that stuff with you guys, so you can maybe look at how this applies to you. But one of the things that comes up is the need for us to be able to do our business online, since in today's marketplace, of course, we're not doing, let me just mute that line. We're not doing live meetings. Wellness previews, kind of a thing of the past. I don't even know if they'll ever resume. But how many of you have applied some of those protocols that I talked about, some of those steps in contacting an invite, that whole how to actually initiate a call with somebody on purpose? Okay, cool. We'll get to that. Hey, Elaine, wanted to congratulate you. Broke a silver this past month. Is she on the line by any chance?
She is, Emily.
Where is she? Oh, there she is. Hi, Emily, you're blanked out. But I wanted to officially welcome you and congratulate you to the halls of silver. Yay. And where is she? Has she showed up on camera yet? Not yet. Okay. Well, why don't you just introduce her, Elaine? Just give us a little bit of a background.
Emily joined in 96. So actually a year before I did. And she had an amazing experience where she had a situation where you were always tired and hurting for 5 or 6 years, tried everything, got on the sleep system, there she is. And in 1 week, it was gone. Take it away, Emily.
Oh,
well,
all right.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay. So I was practicing the 3-foot rule. This is before COVID. So I guess it turned into the 6-foot rule. But the 3-foot rule is that you talk to everyone within 3 feet of you. And so I was sitting next to this darling girl in the library, was asking her about herself. And she said she really liked doTERRA and liked doing the oils. And I said, well, I love energy also. I usually do it with magnets. And this girl, her name was Rachel, she said, oh, you need to get to know my mom. My mom used to do that. In fact, she wants some more. She's lost all her magnets. And then COVID came and I didn't see this girl anymore, but she remembered me. So she called me and we bought a pair of insoles. You're frozen, Emily. We bought some insoles for Mother's Day because she, a year ago, because she figured that that was better than a bouquet that would die. And so then since then, Emily's had experiences with everything else. Are you there, Emily? I know her picture was frozen.
No, I don't see.
Maybe she's trying to get on again.
Okay.
She had She had a situation in her hands that were hurting so badly, she couldn't even flush the toilet without it hurting, just abject hurt.
Wow.
And so I gave her the water and I let her sleep on a proper demo sleep system. And that week she had 2 days that were better. And so she said to her husband, I think we need to buy the water. And so they bought the waterfall, and within 1 month, no hurt anymore at all. So she's had a very, very powerful story, and several other stories too. And she lives in a retirement community. And so she said, everyone in the retirement community has hurts. And so she sees them walking along the street and just talks to them. And she is just a wonderful Leo LeMay at conversations and talking to people. And as she does, she finds out what they need, and she'll say, well, this is the experience that I have. May I bring you some water? May I bring you a seat to sit on or something? And so she's had a lot of results.
Fantastic. Wow. And so I just got the call. You said she's aiming for silver. She's a few 100 points away, and that was done, I think, the next day. So, was that a strategy? Was that a plan, or was that just something that happened as a matter of due course?
We weren't going to let that get away from us. She has a really wonderful sense of when to talk to people and when not. You know, I mean, as an extreme case, there was one gal that she had me come over to her house a lot, and we've been able to do live presentations and demonstrations with people. And so this one family was really interested, and then the mom had a miscarriage. So obviously, you know, there's no way that we're even going to talk to them about the business at that point. And so Emily has a really good sense of when to talk to people and when not, and not doing anything to push them away. And so actually, to tell the truth, I called a neighbor of mine across the street that was friends with her in California, brought her over, gave her a full water demonstration, and showed her the air, since it was on sale last month, while she was here, and actually was doing the Leo LeMay again. You know, this isn't for you. I'm just going to show you this because I want to see if you can think of anyone, especially someone in California, that Emily can talk to. I'm doing this for Emily. So I was doing it in her behalf. But as happens, people usually take it to themselves. So out of everything I showed her, she kept coming back and asking about the air. So Emily called her that last day to see if she had information. She had pretty much everything, and they decided not to buy it. And so Emily bought something and I bought something under her because we didn't want those last few 100 points to get away.
Whatever it takes. Yeah. When you're encroaching on silver, you don't let that pass. Well, again, congratulations. Congratulations, Emily. You made it back. I see. Well, I wanted to first of all
Thank
start
you.
off.
Yes.
Yes, there's a bit of a delay, I guess, on your connection because you're responding a little bit delayed. So I guess internet is not that great right now for you.
I'm going to switch devices, and I was walking down the block from the pool.
Not a problem.
Which
Not
is
a
why
problem.
I went. Okay.
Well, you know, referring to the Leo LeMay, you've been referring to him a lot, and he's on the line, of course. And by the way, again, congratulations, Leo, top PGV in Canada in May. Of course, again. And you're referring to his approach, which is what I call the indirect approach, right? When you're asking for on behalf of somebody, when you're asking, saying, you know, this is not for you, maybe you'll think of somebody, whatever. That indirect approach obviously is very attractive because if then they don't feel like they're being pressured, they're being sold. And then if they see something, they'll let you know. And so the approach, however, that I was referring to earlier as we started this call was the direct approach. This, of course, is an approach that you would take with people on your, where is it? Here. On your million list, meaning people that you intend to call, intend to contact, because they are people who you want to share this vision with, the idea of partnering with you. And that's something that is especially effective, especially useful for somebody who's got 100 names on their names list, like my girls. So they're not going to be wasting time hoping. They're going to be getting through that list as quickly as they can using the direct approach. Now, so some of you put your hand up that you've been using that approach. Can I get a show again who used the direct approach? Okay, and how are you finding it? Thumbs up, one thumb, two thumbs down, thumbs up, thumb up. Okay. I find it effective because you're not really mincing words, but then that would be something that would apply more for somebody who has an objective. And what I mean by that is if you're, if you've got a window painting project that you'd have to do at home, and you're looking to find a window painter to do it, then you have a task, you have something you want to achieve, and you're going to be very direct with the people you're talking with, because you need to identify who it is that's going to get this job and get on with it as quickly as possible. And so if you don't have a goal, if your business doesn't have an objective for this month of June, or you didn't have one for the month of May, then it's laissez-faire. It's whenever. It's very carefree. And while that's nice, and it makes Niken a wonderful hobby, it's not a business. A business without a goal is not a business. And so I just want to be flat on reminding you constantly, because as I'm listening to the chats and I'm just seeing product, I feel like slapping somebody and saying, where's the business discussion? Why aren't we talking business? That's the best product we got. And you're on this call because of it. And so it's almost amazing that we have to be constantly reminded that we have a product called the business that can change lives, that can transform lives, and can have a generational effect that changes lives. I'm going to be interviewing this week, I think it is, the woman who went diamond from silver in less than a year. This just past 11 months, I guess, and getting the goods on what she's done. I'm going to record that conversation and I'm going to share it with you. I wonder how you'll use it, but I'm going to share it with you as I do all the good stuff. And I got something else I want to share with you tonight that I hope you take advantage of. You see, one of the things that I do when I go into launch mode, in fact, not one of the things, the very first thing that I do when I'm about to launch somebody or myself or whatever, I've done my launches. I've done 4 personal launches in my career in Niken. So I've launched myself, meaning a 90-day focus blast, 4 times. The first time got me to silver. The second time got me to platinum. The third time got me to diamond. And the 4th time got me to royal diamond. So that's how I did it. And I'm going to share something that Eric Worre did for us a couple of years back. He was our keynote speaker at an event in Toronto, and he shared with us his 90-day strategy. So I'm going to share that as a video as well with you all, because I really think you need to get tooled up. You need to get ready. I'm getting calls from people who are former Niken consultants calling me and telling me they want to get involved again. I just signed up this past month somebody who was involved, and I'm signing up somebody this week who was involved. So I'm finding this is happening a lot. This is happening a lot. And people are getting the whiff. They're getting a sense that Niken has turned a corner and something's changed. And it's a good change that they want to be part of. So I think more and more of us need to be ready to really rock and roll with somebody that we enroll. So as I'm working with these girls and developing their story, how they are going to make that direct call and transition to the invitation, my motive, their motive, and then the offer. The gap between my motive and their motive is that little piece called the invitation, or the transition to the invitation. And one of the things the girls are going to do is a very short video. I've got to mute you there, Emily. You're getting a lot of feedback. There we go. No, it's not from there. Oh, it's there. Yeah, it's 2. It's okay. I got it. So one of the things that they're going to do is a little video that's going to be them telling the person they're inviting from their contact list. So they're going to make the phone call to invite them the direct way, but that's not going to be all they're going to do. They're going to elaborate more about what the vision is. Remember, I talk about, are you building a skyscraper or are you building a doghouse? Well, what's the skyscraper? The skyscraper is what they are going to do in Niken, not what Niken's going to do, what they are going to do with this Niken vehicle. They're going to build a skyscraper, not a doghouse. And there's a lot more, it's a lot more fun, it's a lot more challenging, and it's obviously a lot more rewarding, and more people will enjoy the benefits of building a skyscraper. So they're going to articulate this vision that they have and their personal why, their why they're doing it, which hooks into the stories you've been listening to when they've been talking. That's why I wanted you to hear how they think and what they're thinking about as they're envisioning the future and what Niken is as a vehicle for them. I wanted you to hear the words that they use and the vision that they paint as they're painting through their words, because you're going to find people that need that in order for them to get excited enough to join you. And if they're not excited enough to join you, well, maybe they'll find somebody they get excited with and they'll join them. So I'd rather you sharpen the axe and be ready for them with your vision of inviting them into the skyscraper you're going to build. So that's first. Second is, what is the tools needed? And that's why I tool up first thing as well. What are the tools that they're going to share? Now, some of you, how many of you are now engaged in using some form of an email system like Leo teaches? How many of you are actually doing that, have formulated it? Okay, how many of you actually have seen Leo's system? Notice how many more hands went up than hands implementing. So I wonder how good the education is if you don't use it. We can spend all night teaching, and if it doesn't actually get turned into something that's useful, what's the point? So, but one of the things you may have crossed, if you've looked at Leo's emails, which I most certainly have, you probably found that, yeah, there's a lot of information sent by way of email. So essentially what Leo's doing is he's doing the part of the why conversation mixed with the how conversation in that email campaign. And then if they're interested, he goes further into the validation by an invite to the live call. So that's an ABC, he does an ABC. And then he gets into the what conversation with more emails that get into the nature of our business and how we make money and so forth. That's the what conversation. So that's what Leo's doing via emails. He's found a way to deliver the content. So let me just share again with you my screen to remind you of what we're talking about here, because I have a solution for you. Because I needed a solution for my my newly launching girls here to be able to operate. So here, let's go to these conversations. So let's do it in this way. Okay, so if you recall the strategy for informing somebody, one of the words we used to use is the information process. How many of you remember the words that we used to call that the information process? Well, what I found was the information process is what you're inviting someone into in that first conversation called the why conversation. So for them, they're engaging in the information process from that point forward. But for you, that initial call was part of your process for partnering with them. So I refer to this as the partnering process, and it contains the information or the information process. So the partnering process is not the information process, but it contains the information process. Does that make sense? So the partnering process would begin with that initial call or that contact that revolves around their motive, their 5 pillars of health. And as I heard you say, Elaine, Emily's been very, very good at sensing people's needs and getting that fine tuning. That's essential in prospecting. Absolutely essential that you become an excellent listener so you can identify what is their potential need. Because then when you actually contact them in a direct way, you know that information about them. And so then you engage them in the information process. So in the way of Leo, Leo's firing off a bunch of emails. What are we going to do? Well, I did something for you some time ago, and it's just been repackaged. So now let's review. Let me just back up for a second, because I think I need to share with you what is each of the steps in the process. Here it is. Here are each of the steps in the process, and here's the information that's shared in each of the steps. So in the why conversation, this is really where you express, and first of all, you entertain their personal and business vision, their vision for the future for themselves. You identify the need. You also express in your transition to the invite, your personal business vision, your personal vision, your business vision, what you're going to do and why you're doing it. People join your why. How many of you have read the book by Simon Sinek? Start with why. I highly recommend this book. I say it again, I highly recommend this book. Start with why. My girls are reading that. So when we start with why, then it's not only what you're doing, but why you're doing it. So what are you about to create and why are you doing this? That's inviting to the person who has a need. That's that first conversation, that why conversation. Now, they say, sure, send me some information. What do you send them? Now, when we had live meetings, it would be an invitation, for instance, to a wellness preview. Now we're doing online meetings, but these meetings are scheduled at various times and are not necessarily convenient for the person or happening soon enough. So how would you like a solution to the how conversation, which is an introduction to the products, the business, and the system? How would you like that, where you can just send them one link? Now, in the case of Leo, what Leo's sending is several emails, which also contain links. How would you like to have one link that has what you need for that how conversation to happen, all in one place? Make sense? So let me share with you such a thing. Does it make sense to anybody?
Yes.
Thumbs up? Okay, cool. So here's what you're going to send them to now. You're going to send them to this link. And I guess you can't read it because or unless maybe you can. I can't see. I got this thing in front of me. It should say theroyalliance.com/a-better-way. Can you see that? Are you able to see that? Can you see that now? Am I not sharing my screen? Am I sharing my screen?
You're sharing your
I
screen.
can see it, Mike. It's in the browser line.
Right up at the top here
Yeah.
Okay.
in the URL. So now send them to www.theroyalliance.com/a-better-way. You send them there, you're sending them to this page. Now, let me tell you what this page has on it. Some of you may be familiar with this page because we developed this page as a follow-up page for when we were doing our Zoom in events. So even though it says, thank you for joining us on the Niken Zoom in event, and they haven't, what difference does it make? You did your invite, you send them this link. And it says, I trust you found the information compelling. It would be more apparent how an involvement directly or indirectly, notice the language, with Niken contribute to many positive ways to an improvement in quality of life, even if you missed our call, which they did, and you're seeing this content for the first time, which they are, you will still find everything provided a valuable resource. You can also watch the presentation in full at the bottom of this page, which I've updated. So here's what they get. It says, enjoy watching these videos. I changed the video. My girls have been through a myriad of videos, and this is the one that wasn't even published anymore that I had a copy of that I reloaded up onto the Royal Alliance page because they thought this video is alive. This video is electric. This video tells the story we want to tell. And believe it or not, it's an old video. So that's the video. Niken and the 5 Pillars of Wellness is what I named it. Then there's something a little bit on PyMag waterfall features. Water Matters, great video. The girls love that video by Dr. Gary Lindner. A Better Way, which is kind of a recap from Ben, very logical, very cerebral. So it's a really nice mix of information that somebody would appreciate if they got the right invitation to review the information. Now, to review a few more of the technologies, if they found that interesting, here's a few of the little links to Niken, Kenko Ground, Kenko M Strides, PyMag Sport Bottle features, and it tells the timeline so they know how much time they can commit to watching any of these things. Then there's view and use these documents as needed. The updated Niken catalogs, US and Canada, A Better Way presentation as a PDF, so they can just flum through it, download it. My Niken business plan, which is the booklet, which you all have now digitally and you can get in print because that's part of the presentation. Remember, system, there's got to be some kind of a system that you're sharing with them. It may not be the best, but it's better than nothing. Otherwise, if you have no system to show them, then they don't believe there's a way to do this. Self-Care Awakening magazine, great tool. And then the video that they can watch and see the longer version of the presentation and the testimonials and so forth. And the one that I chose is the one that I thought was really, really exciting. It was the December 19, 2020 video, and it's got a nice mix of presenters. So go through this and you'll see what a great page. Instead of sending them a barrage of emails in French, you can now send them to this page that has the various content in English. So that's available to you right now.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Good. So now get busy.
Thank you, Michael.
You're very welcome. And yes, like I said, it may not be the best, but it's better than nothing. And I think it's really well-rounded. There's a few more things that I would like to add, but I'm a little leery to add them, which are testimonials. Testimonials can go either way for you. So I'm going to suggest that maybe you have some testimonials that we've been sharing in our tools, but I will compile some stuff in a sensible way that you can then refer and maybe tailor the testimonial rather than it be just generic. You can then tailor the testimonial as a follow-up, because I don't want to shoot it all in one thing. As Leo does not one, but several rounds, I want to do the same thing. We want to have the main content that we think is important for them to know, the products, the business, the system, and then we want to be able to follow up with some things that are more specific to their needs. So that's where we're at as a tool. And I hope that you'll find it useful for sharing Niken. But then it comes down to, will they watch it? Will they review it? Well, how many of you have invited somebody to a Zoom event and they didn't show up? Anybody? So it happens to you too. Well then, if we have a link that we can send people to and follow up that way, it's pretty much guaranteed they're going to get the link. And now it's just a matter of following up with them, and they may have perused one or two things and it piques their interest. So our job is really, really to pique their interest and get them to watch the information. That's it. Because if after watching that information and they're not interested, you're not going to beat a dead horse back to life. It's just not happening. So it's a really great tool. But then how do you invite them in a way that's compelling? And that's where that invitation becomes so relevant, so important. That's where your elevator pitch becomes so relevant, so important. That first contact, that first invite is going to determine how vested they are in the information. And it's really critical, of course, if you have identified their why. Elaine, do you have your hand up? No, that's me. Never mind. So it's important that we get that very first call down. So I'm going to remind you again, Contact and Invite by Mike DiMuccio is an audio that you can listen to on YouTube. And it takes you through a simple way to invite somebody directly into this process. And the one thing that you're going to add to it, and you'll see I do it, by the way, you'll see I do it when we do the make-believe version of me and recruiting Susan Carver. You'll see what I do when I transition from my motive, her motive, to the invitation to review the information. And what you'll notice is the transition between when we're talking about our motive for calling her, then the motive that we identified as something that might be of interest to them. The transition that happens is when Elsa starts talking about her why. That's the transition. And so I haven't until now been teaching that very relevant component. And here's what you have to answer. This is kind of inside information. This is the kind of stuff that I share with the serious cats. There's getting into Nikken. That's one thing. And that is all the generic information there is about Nikken. Why Nikken? Why now? But that's insufficient if you're looking to partner with somebody. You have to add why with you. You have to answer that question. Why Nikken? Why with you? Why now? You have to answer those three questions. And so the transition statement of why you, and not Mike DiMuccio, and not Elaine Brewster, and not Sue Gruber, and not Madeline Zaworski. Why you? That's the transition. That's the part where you have to talk about the skyscraper you're creating and why you're creating it. That's a piece of the puzzle that I think a lot of people miss. And so they don't end up really recruiting people into Nikken. They end up recruiting customers into products, and they never get past that because they're not using the language. They're not attracting people into the funnel that would naturally lead them into that conversation of the business. So it is something that you need to understand and become more aware of. If you're not recruiting people, I'm telling you why you're not doing it. It's because you're not speaking the language that's inviting somebody into a bigger conversation. And you're hesitant to do that because you're only too happy if they're interested at all in anything. And that's selling you and Nikken short. This is a great business. This is a great company. And we have some of the finest products man has ever invented. You should not be shy about inviting people to join you and to join this cause and to build this humans being more company to new heights. This is not something you should play shy with. And you can't say, oh, but I'm just what? I'm just new. I'm just a senior. There's no, I'm just anything. If you're connected to me, you have me a phone call away. You're just what? You're just a phone call away from Mike DiMuccio. You're just a phone call away from Madeline Zaworski. You're just a phone call away from Sue Gruber. You understand? You're just a phone call away from somebody who can definitely get you further along. But I wouldn't waste any of our times with just chit chat. Don't do that. I'll hang up on you. I don't have time for chit chat. I do have time to meet new people though. That's my favorite time. So when you introduce this to somebody new because you've invited them into this dialogue, by the way, the transition line that my girls use is in the invitation to meet with me to go through this process. Let me remind you, what's this process? Let's go back to this slide. So this slide shows you, I added something because I think it's really important. Oops, fast forward, here we go. So here's this process. So they get the person to at least engage in the conversation and the information. And now we send them the information. Now we got a link to send them. Boom, excellent. Let me fast forward here. Okay. Where are you? Where do people get stuck in the process? Never mind what I've got coming up on the screen. I just want to get this image. Okay, there we go. So here's your image of the entire strategy and the entire process for launching a Nikken business. The goal is to find 3 partners. To do that, we're going to contact 4 to 5 people a day. And we're going to do that this month so that we get through our contact list to identify the 1/3 of the people who are remotely interested in having the information. See that? I'm willing to give up 2/3 of my list immediately. I'm willing to sacrifice 2/3 of my list instantly. The sooner the better. And you might be thinking, that's all the names I know. I can't do that. Yes, you can. Because every one of those people knows somebody you don't know. And if you go back to them and you start with the invitation right, one of the things you're going to tell them, this may not be for you. Listen to the contact and invite audio. And you're going to say, while you're going through this information process, if a name comes to mind, jot it down. If you can't help me directly, help me indirectly. That name would be more than precious, more than valuable. So every name on your list should be replenished with another name. But I'm simply looking for the ones who are interested in engaging in this dialogue with me. So get through that list as quickly as possible is the strategy. So that we can identify the 1/3 who are interested in the second conversation, the how. We now send the link to. And where do people get stuck? Oh, I didn't get a chance to watch it last night. Oh, I didn't get right? That's where people get stuck in the information, moving along, right? How do you get people unstuck? Well, what my girls are told when they invite somebody into this process, they tell them this process will include you meeting with our partners. After all, should you decide to get involved with us, it will be very important you know who your partners are. Don't you agree? So we'll do that. Now they have a reason to encourage the information so that that person can get up to speed on the information so that when they meet with the partner, they'll have something intelligent to ask. So when does that happen? It's in the corners that people get stuck. In the corners. That's where people get stuck, and that's where you employ an ABC. Now, I'll tell you where Leo's Monday night testimonial call is. Which ABC is Leo's Monday night testimonial call? Anyone answer? If somebody's following Leo's process exactly, means he gets their email, he fires them some emails. They show an interest. He invites them to a call. Which ABC of those two ABCs is the one that I'm referring to, the Monday night call?
First one.
First one.
No,
No?
No.
he fired them information. They know a bunch about Nikan already now. He's already shared some of the how.
Why?
So we're now going into the second ABC. Now he's going to validate what they've seen. So if somebody comes to that meeting on Monday night of Leo's where they hear testimonies and they've heard information, they've seen information, they're valid, that ABC is validating what they reviewed. And so what's going to happen next? They become a customer or consultant, right? That's what happens. And that's the process Leo's using. The first ABC, that's something I would encourage you do if you can't get somebody into the process, but you really want them in the process. So you might follow up with an ABC. You might introduce them to somebody earlier in the process. But that second ABC, mandatory. It's mandatory. It's not something you do some of the time. It's mandatory. Because if you're not introducing them to their partners, then you're not leveraging the partner's story. If you're not leveraging the partner's story, you're missing an opportunity to sponsor somebody properly because you want them doing the same. So this process is science. It's simply science. If you have these 3 conversations in this order and you sprinkle a few ABCs in the mix, you can't lose. You can't lose. Now it's just a question of how fast can I find my partners, which is a question of how many people can I get through this process as quickly as possible. Any questions? Is it making sense, or have I gone over everybody's head? Any questions? If you have a question, please jump in here? No, yes, Emily.
I would love to see a role play of each conversation, each of the three, because that was what was so part of what was so powerful about your contact and invite video was listening to exactly what you and Susan were saying to each other. Because
So-
I don't have a concrete idea in my mind of those three. I understand it better tonight, but of those steps and how those
Okay.
conversations would sound.
Let me share with you conversation number 2. It's the links on this page. In other words, it's the information we're asking them to go through. Why
Okay.
bother presenting when the presentation's already there?
Yeah.
There was a time when I would have to become a presenter. You, Emily, if you hoped to be a leader in NECAN, there was a time where you would have to be a presenter. You would have to learn to be a presenter. And there was a downside and an upside. The downside is if you're really scared of presenting and shy to present, you may never make that leap. And then you'll always, you might just fade away into the sunset. But for those people who, secretly kind of wish they were a star, we're waiting for that day to be discovered, it creates an opportunity for them to have a stage to present their, and usually where they start is with the products because it's the thing they're most familiar with, most comfortable talking about, not the business. So we would actually partition the wellness preview into 3 segments: introduction, product, business. And we would always put the new person in the product section bookended by 2 strong presenters who did the intro and then the business, and the product person be the newest person. So it was a great way to teach people to become more self-confident, to become more of a presenter. And the first stage of presenting was somebody in the audience volunteering their testimony. They would stand up in front of an audience. The number one fear is public speaking, but we'd get them to stand up in front of the audience and tell their their story. And that was their breaking into show business and telling their story. And pretty soon after the 3rd or 4th time, you can't shut them up. They just go on and on and on. It's like, oh, thank you very much. That was great. Wonderful. Thank you very much. And so that's how we got people to grow and develop themselves and start presenting and start expressing what they felt about NECAN and so forth. And then eventually they'd be on stage presenting the products, and then they may do the intro or the business. And that's how we grew leaders. In this era where we don't host the information anymore, we don't have to, where the information is now, sent by wireless, in a link instantly. We don't have to deliver videotapes and brochures or audio cassettes. Those days are gone. So the internet has facilitated a flow of information, and no longer is it necessary for you to be a great presenter. Just get a great presenter on a link. Let them do the presenting. Then all you have to do is get the person to watch the link. And what is that about? Communication, relationship, personal interaction. That's where you have to grow. That's the new space. The new space for you to become a leader is for you to become communicative, to seek to understand before being understood, to really develop your interpersonal skills. That's where we're now finding all of the growth happening, not so much in presenting. So let's leverage the tools. We got excellent presenters. That Water Matters presentation by Dr. Gary Lindner, man, that blew the socks off my young girls. And hey, if that does that for them, good for that. I don't need to do that presentation. Great. Saves me more time. You watch that 7-minute video. We have the short NECAN, A Life in Balance. They had that option, which was the first link, or the 7-minute version with testimonials. Blew them away. So I thought, okay, I don't need to be, if that's what turns them on, that's the one they should use. And that's the message I always say. People say, hey, Mike, which video should I use? And my answer is always the same. Which one has you excited? That's the one you use. So we have tools that can convey the message faster, easier, and not on your time, which makes the business duplicatable and time efficient. And remember, one of the things that we're supposed to be selling in the how conversation is business, products, and the third thing, system. If you're not selling the system, they cannot imagine how they could add another thing to their busy lives. And that's why Leo's doing so well, because he's showing people his system. And I have to tell you, it isn't rocket science, his system, but it's a system, and any system is better than no system. And clearly you can't argue with success. So part of the delivery of information is the system. And so a person says, I don't know if I have the time. Say, well, when you were watching those videos that I sent you, I was golfing. Can you do that? Can you send somebody a video? Yeah. So, well, how many can you send? How many are people on your phone? I got over 3,000 people on my phone. Well, that's a lot of time that you're not going to have to invest. See? And people are like, I never thought of it that way. It's so critical. As I was sitting there golfing, by the way, there's a couple of doctors, a couple of tees over as we're doing the practice, the warm up before the start. And they're talking as loud as they can. I think they're trying to impress me with the fact that they could be on the golf course at 9:30 in the morning. I'm there too, duh. So they're sitting there talking about working on their passive income. And they kept using that word, passive income. And then I got to know what they were like, hey, dude, man, I'm getting used to this. Like, I like this lifestyle. And I was waiting for them to drop some network marketing pitch. But that didn't happen. They're surgeons and they got to go back to work the next day. They're done. Their holiday is over. And now they're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I got to get some passive income going. And I'm thinking, I wonder. So, but that's what people are looking for. They're getting it. They're starting to understand they need the vehicle. So it's really important that you have confidence in your way to share that. If you don't share that, they're not going to see it. If they don't see it, they're not going to respond in that way. So it's one thing to get customers. It's another thing to get partners joining you. There's more to that conversation. And if you've lacked confidence because you didn't think you have the skills to present, I've already given you two solutions. One, use the website. Two, leverage the ABC. Because all your job is now is to move people through the information process. If you get this, write this down. I don't sell the products. I don't sell the business. I sell the information process. And the information process sells them the product, sells them the business. If you can get that clear, you now have the keys to building a huge enterprise, because now you have a system. And that system doesn't require you to have an outstanding, stage presence. It just means you have to be effective at communicating. And so you've been getting tons of brilliant information from Ben, from John Livesey, from Jeff Isom, from myself, others, on how to communicate. You've been getting really, really good learnings, teachings about that. So now you're having some tools that you can leverage and apply and start getting people into this information process. But I'll tell you, and I'll tell you it a million times, they'll only do it. They'll only invest the time in the information if they have a motive. And you need to help them identify that motive. If they don't have a motive, if you haven't identified the motive, if you just start firing links at people, nope, ain't gonna happen. If somebody sent you a link, has anybody done that? Has anybody pitched you and then you realize they don't even know me? They don't even know me. And they're saying, hey, you'd be great at this. You don't even know me, dude. How do you know what I'd be great at? I'm almost offended when somebody says that to me, because they haven't even taken a second to figure out who I am and what is of interest to me, and they're already pitching me. So unprofessional. Our industry is rife with that. Amateurs. They won't be in business very long. They either learn to do it right or they'll be out of business when enough people tell them get lost. So I'm trying to give you tonight some professionalism, some really good tools that you can deliver content, be confident in that content, know that you always have an ace up your sleeve. You always have an ace up your sleeve. And what's that ace? You got an A. You got an A. And that A is at your disposal. Believe me, in your upline, there are people ready to do those calls, ready to be an A on your call and meet those new people. And let's see. So there is one other piece, of course, in this process. Let's go back to it. So the last couple of things in the process. This is in my way. There. So two very important steps in the process is the big event and the what conversation, which comes first. So it almost doesn't matter which comes first. They're on the same line because they're in tandem. What is the big event? How many of you participated in the last Seiko Kai event? How many of you joined in on the last Seiko Kai event? Okay, quite a few of you. If you had a contact who was through this process and they were in the last stages of this information process and they went to the Seiko Kai, they'd probably be pretty impressed. They'd probably be impressed with the quality of the people, the idea that there's a strong educational component and personal development component to Nikken, the recognition and the stories that were shared. They would get a sense that the people are credible, high quality, high caliber people. They would feel comfortable in this audience. They would feel comfortable knowing that they're connected to people who stand for something and mean something. They'd have got a sense about that. So that big event serves to lock them mentally and emotionally into the business. I would never concern myself with a customer to that event to sell them product, but I would bring a customer to that event if I was looking to help that customer see the potential of the opportunity. So in Leo's process, his big event, his weekly event is the ABC that locks them to being a customer or a consultant, but it doesn't lock them into being a partner. A partner is somebody who does more than just join Nikken. A partner joins you. A partner joins you on building the skyscraper. A partner joins you on helping to put Nikken on the map. A partner joins you and the community in making Nikken the most influential wellness community in the world. So obviously it's one thing to join and buy some products. It's a completely different conversation and headspace if you're talking about changing the world. Where are they going to get to that place? How are you going to help them get to that place? Well, again, encourage them to the next event. Encourage them to a big event. And right now, our only big events are online. And some of those big events might also be events that are being done by other people like Eric Worre. When my girls went to the most powerful women, if you heard their talk, I guess it was last week or the week before, I can't remember, whatever it was last week, where they talked about their experience at the Eric Worre Most Powerful Women in Network Marketing. The impact that had on their psychology, I could not give to them in 20 years of trying to communicate. But they got it by being baptized in that straight on by these powerful women. So leveraging an event like that was smart. Me putting them in that event was really smart, because now they really want to rock. Now they really want to roll. They want to get to the top of what the top is, the mountain. They want to see what it looks like from the top. And those women gave them a perspective of what it looks like to live at the top of their game. They're givers. They're involved in making contribution. They're changing lives. They're powerful speakers. They have heart. They have conviction. They've come from varied backgrounds. Man, what an event. And I had to, and you know what, all I did? Sit back and watch them watch. That's called leverage. So yeah, Mike DiMuccio leverages, because I know there's only so much that they'll hear from me. But when they're in front of that camera and they're seeing and they're interacting then in the breakout sessions, they're like, I just sit there and listen. Then they did, after the event on Sunday night when it was over, they decided at 11 o'clock at night to go on Instagram live, the three of them. And I thought, well, can I join? Can I listen? So I just was a fly watching these three video talking heads like they were doing their own podcast. And I got to tell you, man, I was so impressed. They did an hour. And I thought, you know what? I think these guys can pull it off. I was so impressed. That's why I wanted to put them in front of you last week, because I was like, holy cow, they blew my mind. I imagine what they're going to do for everybody else. So that's the power of leverage, those big events. So we have a calendar of events. We have the Nikken calendar. We know when the big events are going to happen, and we have to plan for it. We have to plan to have our guests at those events, because what those events will do, we can't do. There's no other way to accomplish it. So leverage the events. Now, whether they're coming at an event or prior to an event, what's the what conversation? Well, the what conversation is what we just talked about. That's the what conversation. What's it going to take to build this business? That's the what conversation. It's going to take attracting customers, attracting consultants, but most importantly, attracting partners. And attracting partners is a process. It's not an event. It's a process. It involves a repeating of information, expanding in its vision and its impact. It's a 3-step, 4-step. It's those conversations as they happen, they get more rich and they get more involved and they get more aware of what this could mean for them. The partnering process. So what we just talked about is what I call the what conversation. It's just helping somebody understand what it is that we do. We move people through an information process, and then they decide, do they want to be a consultant? Do they want to be a customer? Do they want to be a partner? It's entirely up to them to decide that. We facilitate the flow of information for them to get to that conclusion. And you may have not presented a single thing in all of this. You may have just simply put them in front of somebody, put them in front of somebody else, put them in front of somebody else, a video, you know, that you're just facilitating a process. The better you get at that, the more people you put through that process. Now, Leo, I'm reminded, how many people today, Leo? How many people, Leo, did you contact today?
3 again? 3, 4?
Three people today. And how many people are you going to contact tomorrow?
Almost 3 again. I have averaged 21 each week.
So 21 every week, whether it's 3 today or 2 or 4 or 2, 21 by the end of the week. That's your thing. That 21 people. So let me back you guys up for a second. By the way, Leo, of the 21 people, how many of them show an interest?
Third.
A third. What a surprise. You mean it works for you too? You know, like, it's not rocket science, guys. It really isn't. Now you might say, but I don't have 23 people. Oh, yes, you do. If you have 23 people right now, you'll have 23 people every day. I'll tell you why. Because those 23 people will at least lead you to one person, which means you'll replenish your list if you know how to ask the right question. So that'll be 23 new people. And if you ask the same question, those 23 will lead you to another 23. And if you ask the same question, those 23 will lead you to another 23. You will not run out of names. But if you're running out of names, you know you're doing something wrong, because you're not getting a referral. And you're not getting a referral because you didn't make that part of the options. If somebody says this is not for me, that's great. That's fine. doesn't mean they can't share this information or share the information of one other name. Hey, Donald, I came to you with a request for your help. And I said, it may not be for you. Maybe you can help me indirectly. Well, that's where we're at. So of all the people you know, don't say, do you know anybody? Don't say, can you give me a few names? No, ask the right question. I only need one name. I only need one good name. So what's the question I could ask everybody? The same question that I could ask everybody. Remember Bob Proctor once saying to Linda Proctor, there's only two things you need to know, that you need to do. Make sure you're in front of somebody by 9 o'clock every morning, and make sure you ask everybody to buy $100,000 of insurance. Her income went from $25,000 to $495,000 that year. Let me repeat. She went from $25,000 a year as a real estate or as an insurance agent to earning $495,000 in that year, because she did two things every day the same. She made sure she was in front of somebody by 9 o'clock every morning, and she made sure she asked everybody to buy a $100,000 insurance policy. Did everybody buy? No. But that wasn't the point. She decided she was going to do something different, and that resulted in very, very big different results every single day. Compounding, 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 compounding. And boy, 25 to 495 is a huge compound. That's what Leo's doing. Every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. So if you have a contact list and you know what question to ask, and the question is, of all the people you know, what one person comes to mind when I say they're health conscious, they're positive thinking, they're a self-starter, they're self-motivated? Start describing the person you want to be recruiting to them. And somebody's going to pop into their head. And then you can ask more questions about it. Tell me their name. You have their contact information. Tell me more about them. What do they like? What do they? Now you have a name, you have a connection, and then you can make the call to that person and say, hey, we have a mutual friend. I was just talking with so-and-so, and I asked them a really simple question. I said, of all the people they know, who was the most, and he said it was you. What do you think that person's going to say? So you'll never run out of names if you ask the right question. Barb, you have your hand up, and then we'll wrap. Barb Richmond, you got your hand up.
Something that Richard was talking about, he had us go through our phone and scroll all the way down to 0 and go through the names. Now, some of the names in my phone, I couldn't remember who they were, where we'd met, or anything else. But I phoned them and I apologized. And when they answered the phone, I said, I hope you don't mind me calling, but I owe you an apology. And that caught them right off guard, right off the bat. And they'd say, what for? And I said, well, I'm sorting through my phone list and your name is here, but I don't recall where we met or the context of our conversation. My name is, and then we started talking. Now, sometimes we actually figured out eventually where we had met and what our conversation was. But out of that, I have new interests for product. I reconnected with people that are interested in the business. And I got 3 new consultants.
Ta-da! Brilliant.
But apologizing because I couldn't remember them started the conversation. And
Awesome.
so I'm going through all my phone, all of the people on my phone, and it's working.
Awesome. Awesome. Guys, like I said, it's not rocket science. You just got to get really good at interacting with people and fall on your sword. Be humble, be open, be fun, be loving, be compassionate. That's it. And then invite them. Invite them once you get a sense of where they're at, when you get a sense of who they are and where they're at, and you see that there's a motive there. That's when you make that transition and say, I don't know, but everything you've said to me is jumping in my bones. And I feel really compelled to tell you about something. And then you make that transition. And so what if you just did that every day, 2 or 3 times a day? 2 or 3 times a day. And now you have a link you can send them to and say, look, get through the first few links on that page, and then we'll talk. And if there's a fit, there's a fit. If there isn't, that's okay too. Wow, how difficult can that be? It's not. It really is not. And you have every reason to do it. Every reason to do it. Every reason to be proud to do it. So with that, share this video if you think this was useful. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for jumping in.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.